All right, finally. No, this might have been for months for you, Steven, but for me, I went to the streaming page and it's completely different. So it's a it's a wreck. Anyway, please. Oh man, I can't even see you guys. It's so small now. But really pop this out. Pop out chat. Hopefully I can make that really big. I have to move this over. Alright, this should work for me. The question is, does it work for you guys? Can you actually hear what I'm saying? Does everything sound okay? Can you hear me and everything, guys? Can you see me and everything, guys? Can you see my air freshener? My Focus air freshener? I think that the stream is actually really far behind. But anyway, sorry for the late start, 13 minutes late, and that's annoying because I actually was ready to go today. I popped up the YouTube page and it changes completely. The interface is completely changed. If other people had a new one before me, that's great. But this was the first day that my YouTube was completely different, and I couldn't go to my stream page I normally had. I could only use the Go Live window, which I've been avoiding because, I mean, I guess it starts the stream before I'm ready to start the stream, or it starts a chat anyway, and notifies subscribers, I guess. Anyway. So today I have so many minis to build, and I've been building them all, and I have to stop and do other parts of minis. But we're just going to get started with a weird one. I say it's a weird one because a customer sent in his mini that was already modded, and he wants me to do the build inside of it. So my lights are pretty bright. I'm going to put it back here, which means it's going to be out of focus. But he painted it in silver, the interior white. And what he did too is he drilled in some holes and used like a little piece of metal as a spacer between the panels. I'm not actually sure what purpose that serves. I'm not seeing it firsthand because you still have to move the top panel over to raise the lid up. So there you have that. And it's also kind of interesting to me. Well, it's not going to matter because of how I'm going to do this. But anyway, he sent me his modded, painted mini. This is not a stock one. And wants me to do a build in it. He also sent this bezel, which painted silver. So I'm going to get started. The chip that he sent is a i7 8086K. And it looks like it's definitely been delidded. I actually don't know if it works, so I'm going to try that first. Little Ravioli says there was no way to attach the power supply to the case itself. You sent an email about the power supply. If you sent me an email and I didn't respond, please send me it again, because I respond to 100% of all emails. And I do it rather quickly, too. So if you sent to me, I didn't respond, I didn't get it. And on my website, I have a form. We can use that, or you can use my actual email address, josh@nfc-systems.com. But on my website, I use a form. And I make you check on that form that you typed in your email address correctly. And I can't tell you how many people check that box and then mistype their email address. And I have no way of emailing you back if you do that, because it doesn't show me your email address, unfortunately. So question before we start is, when the mini is going to come? The mini is going to come. It is going to come. It is going to come. I've been working on that constantly. So it's going to come. And yeah, we just have to wait for it. I have to wait for it. Trust me, I am not happy when minis are not being sold. Okay. Sorry, J9N. I know how that goes. Procrastination is a real problem. Okay. These screws, unfortunately, appear to be stripped. So, that wasn't me. I can put some special thread locker on them or something to help beefing it up. All right, first things first. I'm going to pop this on a test bench. I'm going to boot it and see what happens. I already threw the RAM in here. This is 32 gigabytes of DDR4, 3200 megahertz. And I need a power supply. CPU. GPU. Then I need SATA. And we're getting one of these babies. Told me to use Velcro tape. I don't know if I ever told anyone to use Velcro tape, but if I did, I'm sorry. Don't use Velcro tape. That's just nasty. Just throw it in there. Use the everything fits rather tight. It's not going to in this particular case, but for reasons. The next mini run, though, I'm going to have some kind of hard mount solution. I don't really want to talk about too much, but really the reason I didn't have a hard mount solution in the mini stock for the HDPLEX, well, there's two. One, I'll just show you. Firstly, it doesn't need it. If it needed it, then I would have one. But see all these holes that are on this now? Those always did not exist. They actually had a lot of holes that would move around. And I think now we have a standard, or Larry has a standard. So it's not that big of a deal for me now to bolt it in. Number two was that in certain builds, you wanted to move the HDPLEX over a little tiny bit, and then I just have to put a lot of holes in the front of it for no particular reason. You know, I didn't kind of want to do that. I like how the Mini looks by itself without adding a bunch of holes. And finally, I figured too that we could just use an adapter plate for the fans, and just spread an adapter plate that way. That way you can mount any power supply, because the HDPLEX 400 wasn't the only power supply in the game at the time, and I didn't know what standard was going to win out. I mean, I was pretty sure it was going to be this, but I didn't know for sure. But there are other really good solutions now. J-Hack has some really cool 12-volt solutions coming down the line. Compact has the Dynamo 360, and unfortunately they all use different mounting holes. So I'm thinking that the solution is I'm going to make some STL files for you guys for adapter plates. That way you can just 3D print one off yourself, or pay someone to do it, or me, whatever. But that's kind of the end of the dealio. Chat is really popping. I might not be able to keep up, but be persistent. Super chat always gets my attention, not just because you're bribing me with something I like, money, but because it actually does it bigger and highlights it. And I can't see very well, so if it's really important. Otherwise, email me. Emailing is free, and I can answer in detail. Gamerino says, why are SFX cases so expensive? And there's not all SFX cases are expensive. There's a lot that are dirt cheap. But the cases that I build and the cases that people that are like me, they build, is that we care about quality. We care about design. We don't want to make something that's mass produced. We want to make something that's really, really, really high end and really good. And doing that in small numbers is very, very expensive. So that's really the gist of it. We're not making 50,000 cases. In my case, I've made 1,000 cases, which is a big number for me, but that's over several years. And that's just really expensive to do. So that's part of the reason. I could go into detail, but finishing is the big thing. This obviously has been painted by the customer, but the mini case most of the money is going to finishing, and it has super premium anodized brushed finish. It is really silky smooth to the touch, very scratch resistant. There's no flaws in it. It's good stuff, and that's hard to do. Yes, I do have glasses, but I still can't see well. I have photophobia really bad from numerous smashing my head against things, unfortunately, over the years. So it's very difficult when there's lights, you know, for the office and the monitors over there, and it's not close to my face. So that's why. Norman asks a great question. He says, can this build be used as an alternative to a rack mount case with a set of rails attached? I've always wanted to do a set of rails for the Mini. That is something I'm going to do in the future because it does need to be rack mounted, and customers shouldn't have to fab up their own thing. A lot of them actually will use trays now because the Mini is like, it's not quite 2U. So you have to kind of, and you want really maybe about 2.5U for air cooling, proper cooling. But I do agree, it does need to have some really long ears. So that's in the future for sure. Hey, eCube, thanks for shouting out where you're from. I saw somebody from Germany earlier. That's cool too. Always shout out where you're from. I think that's amazing. And he has, a Desert Night Mini, an S4MC Mini. That's beautiful. My favorite finish. J9 says tempered glass. If you say tempered glass, I just ignore your comment. No, I don't have anything against it. It's never going to happen with my stuff. It just never will happen. And it's for manufacturing reasons and cooling reasons. That's why, not because I hate tempered glass. Scott Greaves says, what case would you suggest for ITX that doesn't have a PCIe slot? Well, I actually have two answers. One, J-Hack has a new case that's starting to ship, and it's beautiful. I would go check out his web store. I don't have the link, but maybe somebody can post it, and I'll go for it. It's just a simple computer case. Lone from Lone Industries, he has the Lone L5 now or something like that. That's a really cool case. It does have a half-height card slot, but it's not bad and allows you to have a little bit taller coolers. And then this is something that I want to do. I also want to do it, and that's coming down the road as soon as I can get it down the road, but obviously I have other things lined up first. But with how impressive the APUs have been, it's definitely a direction that I want to go in the reason. Okay, anyway, I'm going to get a little bit further than I am right now. So I'm going to grab a monitor. And I'm going to grab a HDMI cable. Record Needle, are you J-Hack? Oh, you don't need to spam it. It's a little bit obnoxious. I'm just kidding. Hello from Thailand. Awesome. Anybody from Greece? You know, I think I've shipped maybe one Mini to Greece. They're just not into small form factor. Oops. Oh, Felix. Didn't know you were from Germany, or I've forgotten anyway, because I think that you bought stuff from me before. You can post the form again if you want. Forget what it was for. But I have to walk over there again. in a minute. From Serbia, that is awesome. That's far, far away. Serbia is a big place, though. It's a very big place. So, saying you're from Serbia, I mean, that's like saying you're from Africa almost. Okay, that's a big exaggeration given how big Africa is, but we're going to have to put this in the front. Left, right. So over here is right, and over here is left. So you might want to put your headphones in the other direction because I don't know how to fix that. Could try flipping the mic around. If you guys want to help me out too and answer questions that I already answered, I always appreciate when you guys do that, like when the mini is going to be in stock and all that stuff. I really appreciate it. Okay, this I don't need. This I don't need. Deaf Turtle Monkey says, is there a good way to paint an S4? I heard painting anodized aluminum can be a pain. Painting aluminum with your standard spray paint, like you buy in a can, that can be a pain for multiple reasons. But powder coating is where I would say I would recommend, and that actually works beautifully with the anodized finish of the Mini. So I would definitely recommend a professional powder coat or a professional painter that knows what he's doing. My anodizing is really good stuff. I took a Scotch-Brite brand gray pad to it the other day, and I did nothing with that Scotch-Brite pad. Otherwise, you're really going to have to sand it to get past the anodization layer so you can start using an acid, a prep and ready kind of acid. But if you're using an industrial strength acid that you're putting in a vat, then that's not going to be a problem for somebody that paints for a living. So I mean, I can try turning this around. All right, I downsampled the mono, so now you should be able to hear me, but in glorious mono. Glorious downsampled mono. Yeah, I probably should powered it off first, but this thing takes like 10 seconds to turn on and turn off, which is 10 seconds of my life that I would prefer to waste just talking about random stuff with you guys. Oh, look, I will say one thing about YouTube's new streaming thing. The errors it gives, it actually tells you what's going on instead of just saying problems. Oh, it's saying that my stream's bitrate is lower than the recommended. Is that all? Well, that seems like a good thing for my poor, sad internet connection. So, hey, Calyx Prophet, thank you very much for the donation of $1. You didn't even ask a question, so that was total freebie. Thank you very much. It could be J9N, or it could be that, again, YouTube's new page thingy works completely different than the normal live streaming page I was going to before. I did have a different stream key and a different server, so who knows? And didn't start too early. I started still like 15 minutes late. Okay, now I gotta get my power cable. I got one right here. I do. I apologize if this causes humming. It probably won't. I think I isolated the mic. Any buzzing there? The delay is real. I mean, it's pretty crazy now, too. I noticed as before, I could look and see my output monitor, and it was okay. But now it's like, I don't know, almost a minute behind, so it's hard to talk. Cheers from Romania. Designed my own case, and your S for money was where it all started. That really makes my day. That really does, because that is what it's all about, dude. I'm super glad that I could inspire somebody to make their own computer case. Small form factor. Renan says, can you ship a S for money plus HDX 400 DC to Brazil? I ship to 77 countries worldwide and hope to increase that when the Mini comes back in stock. I'm going to show the prismatic powders. So, yeah, what country do I have the most problems with? India is always a hit and miss. Things just never seem to get there. I don't think I've ever lost. No, I have lost like 2 shipments, but to India, like it just takes months and months and months and months sometimes. China is the most difficult country to ship to. Interestingly enough, Russia is one of the most expensive, but again, Russia is so big that it's really hard to say. I don't remember the country that I shipped it to. I did send one to St. Petersburg. That wasn't too big of a deal. China is a big country, but there's all the people are on the coast, so it's just their customs make it very, very difficult. They don't want you to ship anything to them. They want to let you ship everything to us. So, which is sad because I think that I would have a lot of Chinese customers because they tend to really like this stuff. The weirdest country I've ever shipped to, I've shipped to Congo before, and I think that might have been, at least what I was expecting, the craziest place to ship to. In my head, it's all jungle. I know that's a terrible world view, but I mean, I just like, I'm shipping this to Congo. Okay, so let's turn this on and see what happens. I'll put my tiny little stick on heatsink just to power it on. There we go. We have a post. So now I will turn this off. What I do want to do, I want to get like a switch, a HDMI switch, so I can put a monitor like up here, back there, which there where I have this awesome picture. That way you guys can see. You won't be able to read anything, but you'll be able to kind of see and tell what's going on. No, turn off. I don't want you to restart. Don't be silly. Okay. This is the CryoRig Copper. My cooler review is video. It's not really a review video. I say that to make it short. My cooler shootout compare video is almost done. The video is pretty much all the way edited. I need to finish a couple things up, that kind of thing. But it should come out very, very, very shortly. And I noticed that Optimum Tech just released their cooler shootout, and I was like, come on, I don't want to follow that guy. His videos are awesome. Now I'm doing the same thing. And Scythe also sent me like the same cooler apparently. So Scythe sent him a cooler to review, and he sent me the cooler after it. And again, I want to go before Optimum Tech because it's like trying to impress the parents of an Olympic runner by how I can run a mile in 35 minutes. Seriously, his channel is great. Okay, let's get the C7 on. Already cleaned off the chip with alcohol. Got all the little dusty dusts off. I cleaned off the bottom of this C7 copper. Let's put it on. I do want to measure this washer. Splitter slash switch Mac. I guess a splitter would be cheaper and easier. 2.5 millimeters. Alright. Let's compose me a little mail. Yes, this is actually an 8086. An 8086. The customer sent it in, which I kind of like the name of. That sounds pretty classic and old school, right? I like the idea of that. It's a Delidded 8086. It's supposed to be a 5 gigahertz 8086. Now I had this earlier oriented how I needed it. Okay. Yeah, earlier today I was trying to figure out if it would fit with the Z390i's giant heatsink of incompatibility doomed. Doomy doom. I want to see how high this up without the back plate. I actually have a CryoRig wrench right here. John C. says, what's the most powerful card that you can fit in a Mini? I found that the RTX 2070 from Gigabyte, but I don't know. There's multiple answers to this question, depending on how you ask it. The 1080 Ti is probably the most powerful graphics card that you can fit in the Mini. It's the Zotac 1080 Ti Mini. I believe that's faster than a 2070. I'm sure that Gigabyte will have a 2080 Mini soon. I don't see why they wouldn't. Because it turns out, by the way, guys, that the 2000 series cards undervolt very, very well. At least the reference cards I have here. I was very impressed by it. Because oh my goodness, they are so energy demanding stock. But they undervolt very, very, very well. So that tells me I think that the Gigabyte is going to have a 2080 Mini. So that's why he wanted a new fan. So where is this colliding and can I fix it? I think it's because... Yeah, there you go. It's such a tight fit with the RAM, it was flexing the shroud. There we go. The C7 is normally not compatible with the Mini. That is one of the 2 reasons this customer modded his Mini with these spacers the way that he did. So you can fit the cryo rig because he's a huge fan of this cooler. He loves this cooler so much. So much, guys. All right, so first things first. I have to take out this side puck brace screw because it is not compatible with the motherboard. And neither is this bottom screw going to be now. I'll have to see if I can find a short something or other to replace it. I'll use some extra long ones. How bad is the audio out of sync? I can unplug it, but let's hope it comes back. All right, so maybe we'll be in sync again. I hope that it has one fan. I hope the 2080 has one fan, the Gigabyte 120. So that's half of the answer. Sorry, I got distracted by this mod not working properly. The other answer is, if you want a brickless build, the most powerful GPU that you can fit in the Mini, if you're willing to do some mods, would be the 2080 from Gigabyte. And that's if putting the HDPLEX 400AC in there. There's not a 2080 yet, but I'm believing it will come. Otherwise, the 2070 would be a good option. Finally, if you want to do no mods, then you're going to have to go probably with the R9 Nano, not the Vega 56 Nano, with the R9 Nano, because it has the power connectors on the end. So I would rather myself have a 1050 Ti, even though it's not nearly as powerful, because it's a lot cooler and more stable and all that. Trying to see what other kind of little mods that he did that are causing this not to pop in. I think that his powder coat might be so thick it's making it difficult to install, or maybe it's actually the cryo rig spacers. But it ain't like stock anymore. That's all I can say. All right, let's get some M3 screws and see what we can do. I don't know. I unplugged the HDMI cable. I can turn the camera off and start streaming again, but that's about all I can do. Is it out of sync for everybody or just a couple people? Just let me know when you post it. Because all I can do is unplug everything at this point. All right, I'll power off the camera and stuff and see what happens. All right, I changed the preset to something lower too, but I still have buffering on. That might be the problem too, but I like the buffering because otherwise it just drops frames like crazy with the current setup. Getting back to work. I feel like I'm in the future because you guys are so far behind me when I'm talking. Future tastes the same as the past. You can actually put a 25mm thick fan in the Mini with the Noctua. Otherwise, that'd be amazing. But even if you could, even if it did fit with the top panel on, you need at least a 6mm air gap, which is what I designed the Mini for. The side panels for. So otherwise, it would just make way too much noise and it wouldn't perform very well. So you do need an air gap. Yeah, I think the stream should be good now that I synced that. Thanks for the feedback. Let's just see if it goes out of sync again. And if it is, I think it's going to be the buffering. So I'll have to disable buffering. Then you'll have to deal with dropped frames, which is very important because this is just action-packed PC building action, action, action. All right, got the motherboard nice and mounted. Everything's solid. As you can see, this is kind of what the cryo rig looks like with the stock Mini height, not the this modded height, which is going to raise it up. Oh, Tyler's found a way to cheat the system. The new extended height DDR4 memory modules? I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but yeah, that's probably all we needed was extended height memory modules. I complain about this every stream, but since I have a lot of people watching right now, yeah, it's so annoying that we've finally broken that barrier for small form factor where the hardware is incredible and you can have basically full desktop sized hardware in a small package, but yet they want to make them so big for no reason, even though they're so power efficient now. Now we have graphics cards that are 15, even 20 millimeters wider or taller, I should say, than they could be. RAM modules that are just insanely high. Ugh. Just give us some options. Okay, I'll leave that there. Man, this is kind of messy. I need to wire a special cable because I don't think he included the one that I made him before. He did not. Well, rather than wire that for him, I'll just see if he wants to send me the one that I already made him, so he doesn't have to get charged for a second time. I'll leave this here. And we will open the graphics card, which is the 2070. Okay, so they're just basically 2 rows of DRAM. That could work if they don't make the fins super high. There'd be no reason for them to really do that. Dominic Brewer, this is a custom modded computer chassis by the customer. It's a customer modded Mini. But I don't actually recommend the C7 anyway, as you'll see in my fan lineup video that should release, if not on Friday, that weekend, maybe on Monday. I think for Patreon subscribers, I'll send it to them first, and then you guys can watch it on Monday. Impressions of the new 2080 Mini. It's lighter, or sorry, this is 2070, but it's lighter than their previous one. I like it much better. It's black. There's no garish orange in it. Has a little bit of boxier heat shroud on it, which is nice. It still has a nicely indented PCIe connector for the side. Doesn't really matter too much with this build, but whatever. It's 15 millimeter taller than standard. I'm eyeballing that. Yeah, I like it. It's really light though. It's really light, which means it has less heatsink in it somewhere. But the backplate has a lot of thermal pads on it, which is nice to see. And it does have a really good smell. Yep, it smells like electronics. It's not really strong. It's not really emitting that those chemicals into the air from the plastic. But it's a nice little light. Maybe it'll smell a little bit stronger when it heats up. Powder coating tolerances. I need to tell my guys to spray thin over there on that side. Alright, and I got these screws. I'm going to use a long one if I can find one. I had a Black Ridge on the way, but they canceled it because it had some recall, so I didn't get to test that. But there is another cooler. What's the height on the Black Ridge? Anybody know off the top of their head? With the slim fan? Or without one, that's fine. But something that I found in my cooler shootout when I was doing my testing is that almost universally downdrafting the fan gives you a significant performance delta over updrafting it. So while the Black Ridge, we'll take what we can get, we have to test it out and see how much better it is. May be great because it has a lot of surface area, putting the fan so it blows out the case. It was more significant than going to a bigger cooler in some cases. than actually having a fan on top blowing down towards the motherboard. So we'll see what happens with that. But I thought that was really interesting because I wanted to see if the coolers where you had the fan underneath blowing out would work really well. So I tested a couple of those because that would give you more room in a small form factor case, but you lose so much that I don't know if it's worth it. It's probably just best to stick with something like the NHL9i, or if you can fit it a C7 with a different fan, because I really hate the fan that comes with the C7. Or if you have a lot of money, the LP53. And this is, it's been raised up so you can, actually fit this with the C7 on it. But the C7 is right up against that panel. So again, when you have a fan touching a side panel, even with these giant sky slots, these cutouts, it's going to be very noisy, and it's going to cause the fan not to perform nearly as well. So I'm just throwing that out there. You always want an air gap for any fan. For the A9X14, that is 6mm with the sky slots for optimal performance. And of course, if you decrease the size of your cutouts, that's going to have to get to be bigger. So yeah, the C7 is significantly louder. I do have in that video coming out a comparison between both the 0.21 amp A914 and the 0.11 amp A914. Okay, I'm not going to put that on quite yet. Now for the HDPLEX. So the idea here is that this is going to mount here in front. Oh, also the 2070 has fans that run parallel with the PCIe slot. So it's going to push air right into the back of this heatsink, which is going to be fine for the heatsink, for the HDPLEX 400 because it's so beefy, but who knows what we'll actually do to this graphics card. So having transverse fins would be better for this build. So here's issue number one, and I was pretty sure this is going to happen. We actually do not have enough room to fit the 400-inch standard spot because the 400 AC is so long, the DC is not going to fit. But maybe we can work around it. Now, the customer did want very badly to buy a Dynamo 360, but I don't have any for sale because mine are both going in customer builds. But where is one of those? I'll show you what that looks like. Dynamo, where are you? They're all kind of boxed up right now with each build I'm doing. I do have a dead one loose somewhere. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. This is the Dynamo 360 from Compact Design. And it would fit here. I might have to actually desolder the connectors and angle them out a bit. But, yeah, see, I put basically an Octua fan on every cooler I test because I can't find a better fan than that. The A914 is amazing. But that would fit right in here. But I can't use this. This one is just a show one anyway, for show. But maybe what I can do before I start switching different power supplies is fit this here. That could work. And put the SSD over there. I gotta find a really long 400 cable. And it would be fine too because, again, the fan is going to blow air into the... Actually, what I would do in that case is I would move this here. It's going to be kind of a cabling nightmare. Over to the back, have this blow hot air out the sky slots, and you're pretty much good to go. Oh, I'll also say too that this build right here, even in the stock Mini, you can do. The only thing is the heatsink, and I covered this in the last live stream, it needs to be sanded down, which will take a long time, even with a power sander, or using a grinder, or CNC it, or one of those options. But if you actually remove 2mm of top from this heatsink right here, which is perfectly fine, you can fit this build like this. So that means when they release a 2080, you can use a 2080. You actually probably could fit the TI cards in there, to be honest. Like the Zotac 1080 Ti, if you do a build like this, you're just going to have put cables everywhere. So, again, I think this is an issue for the vendors. Larry from HDPLEX probably will make the unit smaller next time. So, his engineer was fighting him tooth and nail, saying that, no, it's not going to be enough. This power supply needs to have even more heatsink on it. And I was like, no, please don't have more heatsink on it. So we ended up here as a compromise. But this tested out so amazingly well. This product is so phenomenal. My favorite product this year. That I think it'll be fine. I mean, I think you could take off this whole entire heat. You need it because of how the MOSFETs work. But, I mean, it really runs very, very cool. So I hope that's good news for you guys. Basically, I don't need to make any changes to the Mini as far as size goes, and you can fit in pretty much any card. The only problem is you're going to have to run a lot of cables, but I mean, that's a compromise you just have to make. So, but until I actually do it, it's all candy and nuts, right? So let's actually get somewhere with this. So first things first, I'm going to need a much longer 24 pin. It'd be difficult with the 2080 Ti cards doing this because they don't have the notch in for the PCI power connector, but the the Zotac mini cards, this solution wouldn't really work. But with the Gigabyte mini cards, it does work. So there you have that. I have enough room here. I have plenty enough CPU power pin cable, so I will plug this in now so we kind of know what we're doing. Of course, the longest Skywire cable ever. I'm going to charge them for a Skywire cable, a short Skywire cable, because I think that will be better. I knew I had one somewhere in here. Where are you? This one's kind of short. Now, for a really long 24 pin, I know I have some old ones. I hope I didn't throw them all out. I probably did, because why would I need a really long 24 pin? Yeah. Is this one long enough? It's a little bit longer. I don't want the original ones. Here's a weird midway short one. These are all just the weird cables from HDPLEX I've saved. Not all the cables I've saved. I toss tons of them out. Well, that's no good. Ah. Where would I be if I were a really long HDPLEX 24-pin connector? It's kind of a trick question because I would be in the garbage. See if this one is. No, not even close. So I'll have to make one. So that takes a long time. I'll put that aside for now. It's not a problem. That's actually not going to cause any interference that I can see. So we can just shelf that for now. Use a really long 24-pin connector. How long? Then down. Um, 12.5 inches. No, 13.5 inches. I think would look good. So. And for the GPU cable, I think I'm actually going to make a custom one to make it look a little bit nicer. This actually might be fine. Fits in like a puzzle piece. A little bit more. Just a little bit more. You're really going to want some silicone jacket wire too, which I guess I'll sell in my store, just so it makes it easier for you guys if you want to do your own cables, because this stuff is so flexible. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at it. It's like shoestring. Look how it folds over, and you can get extremely tight bends with it, which is nice if you're buttoned up right against the heat sinks. And because it's silicone too, it's very heat resistant. So you don't have to worry about putting it against a hot component. All right. Have that worked out. All right, I'm probably have to catch up with the chat because it's going crazy and see if there's any good questions being asked. State Bank of India says, would this kind of PSU be less efficient? No. The HDPLEX products are insanely efficient. In fact, the DC-DC portion is like diamond efficiency. It's above platinum in rating. What else we got here? 570 I take some sapphire. Blah, 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 blah. I'll show this because it's helpful. Novak says, have I increased the size of future S4Ms? I think I have to make different products. I don't really want to increase it. A customer, a lot of you guys actually sent me in, I'll talk about this in a second. That's an important topic. You guys are doing a great job answering these questions. Thanks, Mac, for your help. Okay. I'm sure that there's more. I made up diamond, but we're talking 98% efficiency. So it's really, really, really nice. I'm going to route that like that. I think that looks quite nice. Now we need this SATA, and that's the kind of the tricky part for this particular build. The customer doesn't want to use NVMe, which I would really recommend for this build with the cables going over the back of the graphics card. Man, I smell ant poison. I hope that's something my wife is cooking. I'm gonna go check and see, because I hope that there's not ant poison in my air conditioner vent. Guess there's ant poison in my air conditioner vent. I was committing seppuku because my stream is taking so long. All right, this is the challenge. Where are we gonna put this? Okay, the 24 pin's going over the top. The power connector, it's gonna have to go here. So we're good there. Anything else I'm missing? It's plugged in, that's plugged in. Okay, so this can mount back over this side of things, and we'll be fine. I actually can use, that's kind of cool, one of these sky slot mounting holes. I need to go get a reamer to remount that hole. 1 second. Because the powder coaters didn't tape that off. I want to use this one. Yes, I do. There we go. Now I need a M3. Get that plastic out of the way. It's kind of tricky as mini builds go, but it's coming together. Now we have mounted to one of our sky slot brackets, our drive. I'm going to use some specialty mounting tape for the back side too, but I'm not going to do that just now since I need to make a 24 pin and all that. And we have our SATA connectors here, which I can actually tuck underneath the PCIe ribbon. So that actually will look nice and neat. Now I'm going to get a SATA cable. From another Z390 box. Because this customer is going to use an M.2. What? I don't want this one. That one's the weird one. M.2 would have been much neater, but this does not look so bad. It's actually quite optimal. Cut towards yourself, right? It's towards yourself. No, the other one. Away from yourself. The power button has to be relocated. It's going to go towards the back or something. Because obviously that's not going to work. But you have a good eye. Of course, I guess you see the hole right here. So, all right, guys. I keep saying that my specialty riser has 2 pieces to it. Oftentimes, people will read the ribbon part and go, "Oh, okay, I'll do that," but then they don't read this part. And this part you need to get right, otherwise you could blow the fuse in it and sometimes the graphics card. So, just read the instructions. And everything goes nice and neat. Thank you, Toomer. It's good to see you. I think somebody beat you You're usually the first one to super chat, but I think someone beat you today. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Motherboard PCIe slot. Motherboard PCIe slot. So I'll just pop that together. Might be a little difficult with how crowded things are right now, but I'm sure I'm going to get it. Come on, you. Howie! There we go. The eagle has landed. I'm going to rewire this later when I put the 24 pin in, but just so you guys can see kind of where this is headed. Nice. Put another one there. All right, so check us out. We have a Intel 8086 Delidded 5 gigahertz silicon lottery chip. We have a Gigabyte Mini 2070, the HDPLEX 400 AC, which can peak up to 460, the HDPLEX 400 DC revision 1.6, and a clear path to making this all work. I might have to move some cables and stuff around over here, but overall pretty neat. I need to have a 24 pin that's, I said, 12.5 inches long in order to hit the 24 pin connector there, so that's missing. And I need to make the DC jack connection. So I'm going to use a GX16 3-pin connector. Actually, you know what I would do? I have to talk to the customer first. But what I would do is I would change this cable that I made him, this sleeve cable, which has a 3-pin GX16, probably to a C6, not C6, yeah, C6 connector, cloverleaf connector. That way I could utilize the top cutout for power, right? And then I could use the bottom cutout for the on-off switch. This particular one has been enlarged for a G16 connector, so it's already 16 millimeter. But out of the box, it's 12 millimeter. So you'd have to buy a 12 millimeter on-off switch. So Super Robo Wizard says, would it be possible to bolt the AC/DC module to the outside of the Mini instead of inside? I don't know about bolt. I mean, certainly you could bolt. It depends on what you can stand as far as aesthetics, but you can absolutely put it on the outside. The brick is developed and it comes with a cable, so you can use it as an external brick. And it's half the size of the previous brick that we're using and way more power. But people have been obsessed with, and for pretty good reason, stuffing in this into a computer case so you don't have that external brick. And this works quite well. And check it out too. I mean, I have to clean up the cables, guys. Obviously, this is just a concept. But check it out. Free flowing path from the exhaust of the GPU out the front of the Mini through the sky slots. So that's good. That's good. This works very well. And again, the only things that you would change is that you would have to buy a 12mm on-off switch, which I guess I could carry in my store. They won't be... Maybe I can get some extra ones made. The ones I have made now are custom made for NFC, and they're very premium. They're not eBay, Amazon stuff. They're completely custom made by... anyway, so I'll see if they can do a 12mm or not. Really break my arms over the pricing, because I'm not going to get a ton of them made. So anyway, what do you need to do? You need a 400 watt AC/DC that has been lowered 2mm. And that could be done with an angle grinder with a grinder attachment, a aluminum oxide disc, a sander with maybe like a 80 grit aluminum oxide pad. That would take a very long time. Of course, you could CNC it. You could file it. Filing really wouldn't be so bad. It would take a little bit of time, but you could get a really good clean result. But basically, you just need to shave off 2mm of this brick right here. That's all you gotta do. And then you don't have to do any mods to the Mini. None whatsoever. Which is pretty cool. Then you need different cables, but big whoop. There's tons of people that make custom cables, including my man Joe Mercado from Sanctum Sleeving. And I make custom cables too, just not as nicely as him. Taking a millimeter off each side, I would not bother to do. You won't really gain anything from that. Obviously, they do split the heat load between these two MOSFETs right here. But I really wouldn't worry about it. I would just take 2mm off one side. It'll make it way easier. And this unit already runs really cool as it is. It does not get very hot. And it does have a fan. So I would only do one side. That's how I would do it personally. There's fins on both sides. And on the back. It's a U-shaped heatsink. So, yeah, that's all I would do. So, what does this mean? What if you want to build your own system? What could you do here? Well, again, I'm positive Gigabyte is going to have a 2080 Mini. So you could do a 2080 Mini. You could have the Asus Z390i board, which I really recommend, and have two M.2 drives. You could have a 9900K, because I think that works actually quite well with Intel power controls with the NHL9i. And you could have an extra 2.5-inch drive. And I found a pretty cool little thing, but I don't know if this motherboard supports it. It doesn't have SAS. It doesn't have the SAS connector. But if you had a SAS connector on your motherboard, you could actually stick 3 M.2s in a 2.5-inch drive adapter. I've seen that too. This could be a really sick computer case. And of course, the beauty of it is there's no external power brick. So, I do have more work to do on this, but it's tedious stuff that's going to take a long time. And I need to get with the customer and see if he wants to pay me to do it, which probably is going to be yes. But he didn't send me the cables that I had made him. So, I don't know why. Maybe he wants to use them for something else. So, anyway, this one is done for now. I'm calling this one. I'm going to start work on the next Mini, though. So, yeah. This aside. It's a mini that the customer customized himself. That's why it's kind of weird and awkward and doesn't look stock. But he had hardware that could prove a stock build, if that makes sense. You could do everything I just talked about just now. If you want to rewind back in the video, I was referring to a stock mini. For those of you coming in late. And yeah, the panels aren't just flexing. They're actually quite stiff because of the material, but they were bent when they were shipped to me. I don't know if the powder coater guys did that from him or shipping. He did tape it up. Like, he taped the whole thing down and kind of compressed it. So okay, build number dose. This OBS Mini was a gift from Chad. The last one was a gift from Craig. So thank you very much for helping out my channel by sending me cool stuff that I can really use. What's this one? I need a build sheet for this one. I have not actually, maybe I used the ASRock Z390 Phantom. I'm not sure. I like ASRock motherboards, and I do like the header placement better than this motherboard. But when I was doing my cooler shootout video, I abused my test bench Z390i, and I did stuff to it that no human being should ever do to a poor motherboard, and it survived. So that really impressed me. On top of that, this board seems to work really well. It's very close to Intel stock settings. You don't have to do a lot of tweaking if you want to buy like a 9900K. And it undervolts really, really well. So I like this motherboard a lot. There's stuff I don't like about it. The header placement is bad for sure. The heat sinks make it very difficult to stick on anything but my favorite heatsink, which is I guess a good thing, which is the L9i. So I don't know. I just really like this Strix motherboard. I wanted to give ASRock another promotional push because I do like their stuff, but this one has so impressed me that I'm kind of sticking with it. So if a customer wants to do an ASRock, which they will because they're way cheaper. Is it time for me to unsync the audio by doing a reset? I'm going to turn off buffering and see if that helps. All right, powering down for a second. One, two, 1, 2. That's an interesting question. Should you get a Celeron or a Pentium for your 98 build in 2019? Back then, I was an AMD guy, so I would say neither, personally. But I don't actually know the answer for that. Yeah, that's arcane knowledge that has left my brain. You'll have to go do your own research. But I was a big AMD guy back in the day. Yeah, my first CPU for my first computer built that I built, not my dad, because my dad, he's the reason I do this today. He got into personal computing when literally the Apple came out, the Macintosh, sorry, and he built computers ever since then. But my first build was a Pentium 3. Now that's my first actual buying the parts and assembling it, because I did upgrades and stuff to computers in the past, but that was my first one that I built. Pentium 3, I want to say, was it 800 megahertz processor? Does that sound right? I think it was a Pentium 3 800. And I love that thing, lasted for a while. And then my second processor was a Prescott. Then after the Prescott, I went all AMD. And AMD made great stuff, I think, until the Core 2... Well, the Core 2 Duo, maybe. But the Core 2 Quad, or the Core Quad. The Q6600, that's the CPU that I switched back to Intel for, and then until just recently, never looked back. Because that chip was incredible. Phenomenal. But yeah, I loved the AMD 64. I loved how you could actually play different video games like Far Cry on it with improved textures. That was a lot of fun. Vista had poor 64 support, but you know, we did it anyway. No buffering makes the video better? That's interesting, because for me, it looks like I drop 10 frames every time I move my hand. Okay, so we have the Z390i with the 9700K, which I already stuck in here, sorry. And now I need my fan, which I'll talk about in a second. And the RAM, I'll do that in a second. I gotta mount this cooler anyway first. My anti-static workbench. Okay, this is the Jonesbow HP 400 Mini or something like that. Not exactly sure. Because the instructions are in Chinese. HP 400 Mini. Okay. This cooler did pretty well in my tests. You know, it's actually even a little bit better than the NHL 9i. With the NHL 9i's fan on it. And it's fairly cheap. It's decent motherboard compatibility. It does have an issue with this motherboard, but I'm going to fix that. But it does have one problem. And it makes me very, very angry. So, as you can see in these instructions, which are in Chinese, but no big deal because they're very good pictures, you have these 4 nuts. And you're supposed to peel off these washers and stick them on the nuts. They're plastic or fiber or rubber. The ones that I got are plastic, but they look like rubber in this one. Doesn't matter. So, I did that, right? Because I can follow instructions. Tighten everything down, turn the motherboard on, pop! Magic blue smoke. And I'm like, fine, this is like the 30th cooler I tested. And I'm like, what did I do now? This motherboard survived all this time. So I go and I find that I popped the motherboard here. The top right hole near the CPU 4+ port pin. Because there is some little doodads, exposed circuitry there. And I'm like, how did I do that? And I go and I look and I find that the washers they include 8. But they only show 4 being used. You actually have to go and double stack them. If you don't double stack them, you don't have enough clearance, and it'll be metal on metal, and you will short out your motherboard. So that made me very angry, and nobody should buy this cooler, because that's just bad design. And plus, it's just a ripoff of another cooler too, so, you know, why reward that kind of thing? So if I'm coming across harsh, well, sorry. You got to do better research than that when you're making a cooler. If you put out a product that can damage another product, and that you got to do a little bit more research. You got to install it one time. That's all I'm asking. I understand there's engineering problems and quality control problems and stuff. You know, I make stuff. I understand. I make mistakes all the time. I guarantee you I make more mistakes than Jonesbow. But I you know, test my product out at least one time before Anyway, I am going to use this though because it performs a little bit tiny better. And the customer was cool with it. Although I'm going to use the good fan, not this fan. This fan's actually not too bad either, but it's not Noctua, you know? Alright, I wasn't paying attention to the chat, but you guys can ask a question again if you need to. Do you know what my worst nightmare is when it comes to computer parts, besides fire? This was a present from HDPLEX that came in the mail today. Talk about the world's most powerful external power brick. This is a modded power brick. See that number right there? This will kill me dead. This is how I'm going to die. I see that right now. This is how I'm going to die. But seriously, I'm not going to name names, but there is a power supply maker that I like and I respect, but they made a mistake and they sent me something that was not ready, and I plugged it in and it had a defect on the circuit board, and it caused the most insane, crazy, scary thing I've ever seen in electricity before. And I've been hit by 220 before, twice. It made the wires that went to the DC jack where I was plugging in my power brick, it made them oscillate. And it made that sound that power lines make, that sound. I mean, I was this close plugging this thing in and it was going off like that before it made a bunch of smoke. But that was as close as I came, because that looked very scary. That looked very, very scary. Okay, so putting this together, I've already polished it, cleaned it off. I don't think I'm ever going to need this fan. I might as well throw it out, but kind of collect different cooler fans, so I have a problem, I know. I'm going to use the 0.21 amp version of the A914. Where I need to make sure this actually fits, though. With all the heat sinks on. Yeah. 'Cause I can't go the other way. I can take off heat sinks and stuff, but I think I'm going to be fine this way. And if not, I will redo it. No big deal. I should probably mute that because I could get loud. And it's going to go in this corner. It's going to go right there. Man, the Noctua fans too. If you've never owned one before, if you've never held one before, they are something else. Like every other fan that you get, it's hard to get excited about fans, right? But if you buy a premium fan, no matter who makes a premium fan, but you spend like 25 bucks on a fan, they usually are pretty nice, but this is just a whole other thing. I mean, the plastic that they make is so dense, it's so stiff, it's the perfect finish. It's like bead blasted finish on plastic with the rubber mounts that are actually stick and don't pop off as soon as you buy it. I mean, they are super high quality, and just looking at it in person, you can tell that it's a beautiful thing, you know? And I know people hate the color, but it's one of those things too. Buy one and look at it and then see what you think. It doesn't match anything, and that's true, but I always like to say that it's like the inside of a sports car, a high-end sports car, right? That leather doesn't match the outside paint, but you know it's nice. let's see if I can fit that with the clamps in there. I might not be able to, but I'm going to try. They are kind of springy, so... Make sure to have my double plastic washers. Well, this isn't a Noctua heatsink. So, Noctua's heatsink actually uses screws to mount the fan. This is just a, it's not a Noctua. Feels like one of those, old school commercials, like at magazine ads. He should have got her a Noctua. That's gonna require some finagling to get this last one in there, because I gotta push the pin down. Got a nut driver. A bigger one than this. Be right back. Gotta get a 10mm. I'm back, sorry. I'm not over tightening this or anything. I'm just getting it somewhat snug. Double check I have clearance because I do not want to short out another motherboard. Nice little squeezing out. Okay. There we go. Now for the RAM. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do the SSD first. Backside. This is the 970 Evo Plus 500 gigabyte model. Where'd my tiny little Lee nut driver go? I didn't put, oh, there it is. I just didn't put it back where it goes. The better performing slot on the motherboard is the rear. I say performing, but it's just about heat. You're not having the... It's not the North Bridge, but it's some kind of controller the motherboard uses. Shares a heatsink with the SSD heatsink, which is just dumb. I mean, you gotta have a place to put it, so I get that. And usually you have hot air from the CPU fan, but I have a transverse set up here, so that would be that big of a problem. All right, this one is installed. iTex, you're absolutely correct, but this only installs one way with this giant heatsink. So I don't really prefer to have a transverse fin design where it's blowing into the RAM slots. The way this cooler works, though, it does have a nice gap where the air is going to come out on the other side, so it's not going to be the biggest problem in the world. Whereas Noctua's design and some other design have interlocking fins, so the heat sinks go all the way down to the base, so the air can't actually escape. So a lot of the air from this cooler is actually going to just kind of swirl up underneath it. It's not going to be that big of a problem. I might end up taking the heatsink off for the SATA, the M.2, because it doesn't really do anything. But I'm going to see what temperatures look like first before I do that. But that answers that question. I'll allow this Discord. No, I'll put a new one link in just in case. Don't switch. Don't do anything. No, don't touch. All right, last thing, the new HyperX Predator modules, which I bought for two reasons. I usually use the G-Skill because they're compatible with Asus's AuraSync and the motherboard controls right out the box, which is good, right? And they're good modules, so there's that. Stick with what you know and what you can tweak easily, right? But I really like the look of these, for one, because I do not like any other of the looks of the RGB RAM out there. I don't dislike some of them, but I don't prefer them. But I think these look like they look sick. So it'd be nice to have a alternative if I can't get a hold of the right G.Skill module. But this looks really good in person too. Actually looks better in person than it did online. The outer heatsink is aluminum, brushed aluminum. And it has a diamond cut logo. And the inner is also aluminum, but it's been bead blasted, so it's matte. Very handsome looking module, I have to say. I did lots of VLP builds. In fact, there's a video coming up, and you'll see I used VLP for the only VLP really available right now. You don't got a lot of options. These were also sent in by a fan of the channel. But some ADATA modules. They worked really well for me. The ADX4X2 66638G19-BP, which none of you guys were writing down, so you'll have to come back and listen to that like 50 times. But they worked quite well for me, even for my test bench. These modules are pretty heavy too. I was hoping they would be lighter than the G.Skill because in shipping, RAM can come out. Oh man, those look really great, don't they, guys? That matches this motherboard perfectly. That is very handsome. Very, very handsome. I hope they work. And I'm not sure if they will or not. I heard that they actually have problems with Asus AuraSync. I'm hoping that's an older model, or they've since fixed it. This is good. I can do an unboxing of the 1.6, the new 1.6. Larry needs to like have more revisions, like 1.65 or 1.6B, because there's lots of 1.6s. So I do want to show you guys something. You get your 24-pin cable. You get a dual 8-pin cable. You get your CPU 4+4-pin cable. You get your SATA connector cable, a new one. This one's updated. And here's the last thing. This is the new jack for the HDPLEX 400 DC. It's very beefy, and it solves some of the weird issues with one of the series of Dell power bricks, where you have to actually unplug the thing before you plug it back in. I don't think you should have bothered, because that was only for one particular power brick, the cheap one, which I guess most people wanted to buy, but the cheap one also doesn't work very well. So, you know, it's not worth it. But this is a 12.5mm hole, which is unfortunate because I think I have to open up a new mini too. Alright, here's the thumbnail. Let's move this to the side. I'm going to save this for later, but... Man, that strap makes it too tight to pull out. It's like me after Thanksgiving Day, taking my belt off. If there's anybody new in this channel or the stream that hasn't seen the Mini before, this is what the stock Mini looks like, because the old one was customer customized. Oh. I thought that was a scratch for a second. I'm like, what? The whole reason I unboxed this now was to talk about the power cables. Anyway, so the hole in the rear is a 12mm hole for a 12mm switch. This is, oh, it does fit, thank you. He was saying that it didn't fit for some reason, so I had to update the chassis, but it does fit. So, newly designed power jack, power cable from HDPLEX. I was like, okay, is this actually going to survive enough amperage? And he tested it for me with this guy and the HDPLEX 800 watt. So, and a splitter. And it did fine. It didn't melt. So, this is new. This is new. It is kind of cool too because it's really easy to install compared to the old one. And it might give you more clearance too if you were a S4 Mini C customer. So you might not have to do any mods. Feels so good. Back to business. No one's going to watch the stream later because they're going to see the time on it and they're going to be like, 4 hours? Not even if she was my girlfriend. We don't need this, actually. Nice job, Larry. Nice job. I didn't think that was going to fit, and I was going to be like, it's going to be a pain. But it does, so everything's better. All right, we need this guy, which is an HDPLEX 400 AC without the cover on, which is just 6 screws. Because the secret sauce of this build is a brickless 2060 build. Ooh, I think they actually have a 2070. They make a 2070 like this. Somebody can confirm in chat, but sounds horrible, doesn't it? This needs to go here. This is in the wrong hole. If you go brickless, I mean, there's different ways of going brickless, but with the AC DCs from HDPLEX, you don't really have enough room to use a 120. You might be able to fit a dual 80mm though. Maybe from Alpha Cool, something like that. Kind of be neat. Alrighty. $1,100 for a 2070. It's ridiculous. I am going to put a fan on this power supply, even though it's passive up to 300 watts, but I don't know when I'm going to hit that, and because I don't have the other fan on it, I don't end up breaking something yet. So that's why I'm putting a fan on that. It doesn't need cooling, but I don't want to break a customer's parts before I can bench everything in. Oh, speaking of benching everything in, let's see what the 2070 pulls. Alright, first startup on this motherboard is always crazy because it has to reset 3 times. If the RAM is working, the RAM is synced with Aura Sync, just in reverse, which is kind of really cool. I don't think that was on purpose, but that's kind of cool. After setting up the Intel Optane memory or RAID configuration was built, SATA mode must be changed to RAID mode to avoid known issues. It's interesting error warning that I don't care about. What else is going in this build? Cool stuff, but nothing that is going to go hardware-wise for now. The system cannot find any bootable devices. What? This is the first time I've not seen a M.2 drive load. Oh no, it's showing it. It's not listed as bootable yet. You have the audio buzz, the dreaded audio buzz that gets worse when I touch this. I need batteries in order to not have that happen. So I can just stop the stream for now. Come back later tonight. I could eat dinner and bring batteries. Deal. Plus I'll have Windows by then. Alright, I will stop the stream then for now, and I'll get batteries for my, oh, actually, you know what I can do? I can use my portable lithium battery pack. We're going to lose audio for a second. Should have audio now. Audio! Yeah. And it might not be buzzing. I gotta double check and see if you wanted home or pro. I'm pretty sure it was home. Okay, home, and we all know that he wants the 64-bit version because that would be crazy. It's still buzzing? Is it buzzing or is it just picking up the fan? I'm gonna turn up the fan and see what happens. I'm setting up Windows. What I'm doing. Alright, let's see what happens. Is it still buzzing? I mean, the microphone is like right there, and it's a nice microphone, so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if I touch this, does it get worse? Because it should be completely isolated now. Okay. If it's still buzzing, then I don't know what to do. And the power supply is grounded properly. There is an issue with this particular power supply. It needs to have something boiled longer or whatever. But the audio should be completely isolated. The camera's running on batteries. The audio is running on batteries. I moved the cable so they're not touching anything metal. Testing 1, 2. So that's the power supply is grounded. It's grounded. It's grounded. But you shouldn't be able to hear this. And this is an anti-static surface. So but if it's still buzzing, then it's actually like electrical noise that is radiated because everything else is isolated. The buzzing is worse now. Yeah, maybe it's the streaming PC, because this is on the same wall circuit as that. That's the only thing I could think of, because, I mean, the only thing, this is touching plastic right now. If I move that away from the plastic, can you hear buzzing? I've already unplugged the fans. It's gotta be the streaming PC. Oops. Ground loop issue with the streaming PC and this wall socket. I mean, I know how I can prove it. I think it has to be radiated. I don't know, because it's weird that it goes when I touch away. When I touch it, but I could run this off a battery, but that's the only thing I can do, and Windows is still setting things up, so I have to wait a second. Well, right now the fan's going at full blast. Well, turn off your audio for a second, because I'm going to unplug the cable. Turn it off. It's frustrating. Yeah, it's gone. I don't understand the problem is. I really don't. Right now it's just the camera audio, which is really bad, but... No, I didn't fix it. I mean, now I'm just using the camera audio, which is terrible. So anyway, okay, so this is working. That's great. Yay. I actually do want to do a benchmark. I think that's where I'll call this because I'm tired and hungry and mad at the audio problem. I'm hangry now. What I want to do is I want to benchmark this and I want to see just how much juice it draws. I want to know why it's interfering though with the with my mic, because the mic is isolated. I mean, it could be picking up to this arm, but you think that that 1/4-inch jack on the Zoom would be isolated, just embedded in plastic. It's very strange. All right, so I want to download. Well, I do have to get. Hey Joseph, thanks for the epic donation as usual, and thanks for the note as well. So thanks for giving me some support. I need it right then. Transformed Photo says the 1/4-inch is not a Sheila connection. Susceptible to radio frequency. I mean, that could be true. I mean, you think it would just be embedded in the plastic. Does it go up to some kind of metal frame though? I didn't know that RF was conductive through plastic. It's interesting. But you think that a product like this, would think about that kind of thing. Yeah, you guys remember, you're like a minute out of sync with me or more. So when you chat something, it's not showing up with the audio or with the video. Oh, okay. All the audio guys are talking and it goes way over my head. Oh, what was I doing? I want to benchmark this, then that'll be a good stopping point. Actually, I think I have ran the stick. I do. Awesome. Copying files over. You know, maybe what I should do is I should like 3D print a bracket instead of, well, it has carbon fiber in it and that is conductive. Almost dropped my test monitor. actually going to run this for two reasons. One, this is actually one of the heaviest, dutiest benchmarks for power supply testing as far as games go, real-world tests. OCCT would be the most craziest synthetic, but do not run OCCT unless you know what you're doing. I'm changing the modes. But this is the Final Fantasy 15 benchmark, which is a free download. And it's a good one to run to test your power supply, because it will max it out as any game benchmark, as any game would. So it actually pulls more juice than Tomb Raider, which was my previous go-to. I use both of them, but this one's very convenient because it stands alone, so you don't have to install Steam and download a huge game and then run the benchmark. And I can put it at... Probably have to get drivers for it. It doesn't look like it got the best drive. No, it didn't. So let me get some drivers for this. I think I might have some on this, which would be nice. Because unfortunately Windows did not install good drivers for my Ethernet. And I don't think it's the wrong cable. It is blinking. Z370. I'm going to use the Z370. Because I don't think that it would change much between 370 and 390. Could be very wrong. Hey Chad, how's it going, man? Thank you for the tip. And my week is going very well. I really appreciate that. Oh, no Intel adapters are present on this. So I'm going to have to use the CD. Man, that's been a long time since I used a CD. That's not right. Something is not right here. Thank you for the test bench, which I called you out for earlier. That's what it's got to be, transform photo, because I think it has to be irradiated emissions, because I actually had the mic running off a battery and the camera's off a battery. So I guess the cable is just an antenna. That makes sense. At least I'm going to buy that as making sense. It sounds smart. Alright, get this. Such a bummer I have to do this with a CD. I think it's because I didn't have the Ethernet cable plugged in, which I usually do when I installed Windows, so it didn't actually get the right driver at the time that I was looking for it, which doesn't really make sense anyway, because it should have at least something loaded now. I'm going to restart too while I get the CD for this. Do I have to open up yet another Z390i box? Is there one that's empty? That's not good. Do these not even come with CDs anymore? I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, okay, I'll change that. Thank you. This is the best spray paint in the world. It's a clear coat for a rattle can. Now let's see if I can actually... I'm gonna have to move it off more to the side if I want that to be effective. Herp. It's on manual focus, so it shouldn't shift over. All right. This is getting to be boring. I should have stopped while I was ahead. The last time I used this, I think, well, it was to install Windows 10, but Windows 10 on a CD, which was a long time ago. It's the worst. Norton Security, that's what I want to install. Just want to do one simple thing, but then I have to go get video drivers. I think the best thing to do here at this time is take a break, because it's been a long stream. So I'm going to take a break, I'm going to eat, I'm going to install this stuff, and then I'm going to start putting this into a mini, because I think people would rather see that anyway. Oh, it better not be installing WinRAR. This is why you don't use CDs. So the question is, do I stop the stream? Yeah, I probably should stop the stream. It's going to advertise and we're streaming again. All right, well, I'll see you guys at about 8 o'clock. Make it 8:10. All right. So dinner time. But I actually don't know how to stop the stream now because, again, YouTube changed it all.